become vice president until next year. President-elect Trump has not weighed in on the race. It's risky if Mr. Trump supported a candidate who lost. Some senators will not say how they voted. They want to avoid a backlash.
President Trump has made border security a top priority in his second administration, but Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is blasting President Trump as a threat to his city.
The president-elect, former President Trump, his threat is not just towards new arrivals and undocumented families. His threats are also against black families. We're going to stand up, we're going to protect undocumented individuals. We're going to protect black folks, brown folks, Asian folks. The city of Chicago will be better, stronger, and safer despite who's in the White House.
But Illinois Senate candidate Tyrone Muhammad, a former gang member and Trump supporter who founded the group Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, says Mayor Johnson does not care about black families.
If he really cared about black families, the day the mayor thought about giving resources to non-citizens, illegals, before he gave it to black communities that have been suffering for decades, then he would be more true to his word about black families.
Around 10 states had abortion ballot initiatives in this year's election. While some of them were rejected, most of them passed, reminding pro-lifers there is work to be done in a post-Roe world. Chris Woodward has more.
Scott Baker of Cogency Strategic says the Dobbs case that overturned Roe v. Wade was not an ending, it was a beginning.
The other side has made it clear that they intend to bring this fight to every state in the United States. And the fight is really very cut and dry. I mean, they're not being too shy about what they're trying to do, and that is enshrine unlimited, unrestricted abortion in every state constitution.
As a result, Baker says our work is cut out for us.
The playing field really has gone from one arena, if you will, that is the federal government and the Supreme Court, to now 50. It's a battle that's going to have to be waged in every state.
One organization that will be there for the battle is National Right to Life Committee, where President Carol Tobias says they will be working to make sure people realize that because abortion is now legal in many states, that does not mean you want it or need it.
It's not good for the baby. It's not safe for the mother. So just because it's legal doesn't mean a woman's going to get an abortion. And that's what we're going to have to be pushing, and to come up with programs and quite frankly, maybe advertising campaigns to make sure that people realize just because it's legal doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
I'm Chris Woodward.
Former acting ICE Director Tom Homan has been tapped as President Trump's border czar, and the liberal media is having a meltdown. But Homan is firing back at his critics.
President Trump has made it clear we will prioritize public safety threats and national security threats first. If you're in the country illegally, you shouldn't feel comfortable. Absolutely not. I won't feel comfortable if I'm in the country illegally. You shouldn't be comfortable either, because when you enter this country illegally, you have committed a crime. You are a criminal, and you're not off the table.
More news online at afn.net. I'm Rusty P.
Hi, it's Sandy Rios, your old friend from the morning show. So many crucial and frightening events are unfolding before our eyes. I'd like to invite you to come over to the podcast, Sandy Rios 24/7, so that we can work our way through these difficult times together. AFR.net, any podcast platform, or at sandyrios.com. And one more thing, my book, God's Velvet Hammer, is now available on Audible. So come join us at Sandy Rios 24/7, and remember, God's Velvet Hammer, available at Audible.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network for this Wednesday, November the 13th, 2024. Thanks for listening. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Wesley Wildman.
Good morning.
And Fred Jackson.
Howdy, howdy.
I think if Steve Jordahl is going to get the Paisley label, I think we got to come up with something for Ed, because you can't see this even if you're watching, but he comes in here with a stack of cough drops every show.
Yeah.
So we got to
the cough drop kid or what?
I don't know. That's what we're here to discuss.
Well, actually, I try to leave that to yes.
We're here to discuss this.
I try to leave it to personal clothing style.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and so
but that's too
But
far. Yeah.
but Ed is getting better.
Okay.
He's getting over some
why are
things
they talking about you like this?
because
I don't know. I don't know what I did to these guys.
no,
but
I don't know.
no, Wesley started this.
Yeah.
I'm just finishing it for him.
Yeah,
I'm praising
Cough drop.
Ed because he had this thing about lining up the cough drops.
yes,
yes, he did.
Just perfectly
Yes, he
before
did.
the show.
that's
And-
right.
And now anything goes.
There's a wad. I have a wad of them.
For those
and let me explain why
yeah, please
I
do,
changed.
because I
is
think our
because-
listeners deserve to know why this 2 minutes of the show is being devoted to cough drops.
Because
in the
I was
studio.
tired of the abuse. Not just the verbal abuse, because I happen to like orderly things.
Right.
And I had 3 lines of cough drops, okay? And I would even adjust them if I removed one. But not only the verbal abuse, but I would come in sometimes and they would just be scattered all over the place.
Who would do that to you?
Because the
no.
childishness
Right.
that goes on
Like
inside
a
the
schoolyard
studio.
bully.
That's right.
Let me end with this. I just want to defend myself. That was a compliment to you because you're a DC Marvel guy and you need a nickname. And so I was just looking for a nickname for you. That's
Okay.
all.
Captain,
That's it.
Captain Cough Drop.
No, I don't want to be Captain Cough Drop, but I don't mind. I'm Batman. I don't mind that.
Okay, but that has nothing to do with the cough
just-
drop. But
We're gonna
true.
we'll move on. Okay.
We'll state this and then we'll move on. Ed likes cough drops, and he keeps them here in the studio. Several of them, just in case he has a
Multitude.
coughing attack.
10 a day.
So,
Yeah, it's
really, I don't care.
He counts them in his calorie count.
That's your. That's
No,
your.
these are sugar free.
Okay.
yeah, it's
That's
a bit
your
of
business.
it's
I
a
don't
bit
think-
of a security blanket.
I don't think. I was just going to say I don't think the Bible says a word about how many cough drops a man.
Amen, brother.
A man sucks on during the day. So to each his own.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
I don't want anybody counting my cups of coffee.
No nickname for you. I thought I was helping.
All right.
All right.
So
Not like we don't have anything else to talk about.
Man, we are loaded with stuff today.
Good news today. Loaded with a lot of good news.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
By the way, Dr. Alex McFarland will be with us at the bottom of the hour, so we look forward. We don't know what we're going to talk to Alex about, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so what is leading the news, Fred?
What is leading the news, and I guess I can describe it with the headline that's heading the AP stories on AFN.net right at this moment, because I just put the story on there. Trump makes a victor's return to Washington to meet with Biden and GOP lawmakers. It's quite a scene at Andrews Air Force Base this morning as Trump's plane arrived there. First time back in D.C. and as president-elect. He's gone downtown. He met with House Republicans this morning, got a standing ovation, and we're told he said something along the line that's nice to win. So meeting with them, and later on, he's going to be meeting with Senate Republicans, but they're kind of busy at the moment because they are picking a replacement for Mitch McConnell. And we can talk a little bit more about that. And then when that's done, he'll be meeting with President Joe Biden at the White House. Even though they have exchanged some bitter words in recent months, they apparently will have a nice meeting, and it'll be welcome back to the White House, and they'll have a discussion on current domestic and foreign policy.
Are they really going to do that?
Yeah, according to the Associated
In
Press.
front of everybody?
Not in front of everybody. Oh, no. The reporters will be chased from the room.
Okay, so this is an American tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter how vitriolic a campaign will be, is rather, between the Democrat and the Republican. They always have this sort of meeting, which symbolizes the peaceful transition of power, as they say. And so Trump is in Washington, D.C., President-elect Trump, meeting with House leaders, then, with House Republicans, I guess.
Yes.
And then with, as you say, Senate Republicans. And then it says on CNN any moment Trump and Biden to meet at the White House. So
Yes.
I don't know what Hitler and Biden will talk about.
That is strange.
Now, to be fair, Biden never called Trump Hitler.
But he did call him a threat to democracy, or is that just Kamala?
Oh,
And
I don't know. He has.
Biden has his other versions of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he didn't amp it up quite. He did call Trump supporters garbage. I know that, but I mean, okay. But I just think it's interesting that I think Kamala Harris was worse than Biden in the name calling, but that's just my opinion. Go ahead. You were going to say?
No, it is at least a good sign that they will meet as per the tradition, the peaceful transfer of power and the tradition of the outgoing president sitting down with the incoming president.
All right, what was the final, Wesley, what was the final electoral college difference?
312 was Trump and 208 or something. I'll get the
So it was a blowout.
It was a blowout.
Whoever won, who won in Nevada and Arizona?
Trump did.
Good.
He won every single swing state.
It was 312 to 226. I was off 312 to 226, and as you said, it took 3 or 4 days for them to finalize Arizona and Nevada. But when it was all said and done,
Pull up that map, Ed.
Well, I got it right here. It's 50. He ended up winning by 6% in Arizona. 6. Remember, it was supposed to be 1% difference.
Yeah.
Nevada, he ended up winning in 3%.
How did Trump do in California?
He got 38% of the vote, and he got 5.2 million, and Kamala got 8 million. So Kamala.
Can the rest of the states just go ahead and vote California out? I mean,
yeah, right, exactly.
I don't know. They produce a lot of food.
Well, that's where the conservatives live.
Yeah, well, that is true.
But where the sane people live is in the Central Valley.
Yeah,
they're the one that made all the food.
I don't know if this is a surprise to y'all, kind of, sort of to me, but Kamala only won the state of New York by 800,000 votes. Wow, I say only. That's a lot.
No, that's not a lot. And what was the final score in New York?
55 to 44. But see, there was also that third party that took up a good bit too.
By the way, let me just say this about California. There are a lot of good people who live in California that I know personally, and I'm just teasing about
voting them out. Yeah,
kicking them out.
But the few that I know would agree with you, and they would move.
Oh yeah,
kick them out, and I'll move.
Yeah, the lefties.
My point is, they understand what your sentiment.
Yeah, the lefties want out. A lot of them said, they were leaving if Trump was elected. So
listen, a lot of them too. The ones that own businesses, they don't like the policies because they're constantly squeezed. You got to hey, look, we're going to raise the minimum wage to $50. I'm speaking with hyperbole here, but the policies of that state crush small businesses.
Well, and also you got to look at how many businesses and people have left over the last 5 or 6, 7 years because of the extreme liberal policies of the state of California. All right, so you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Now, what I was very excited about yesterday, the news that Mike Huckabee, our friend and the former governor of the state of Arkansas, will be the next ambassador to Israel.
Yes, absolutely. It's exciting. Former Southern Baptist preacher, former governor of Arkansas, a man who everybody says loves the state of Israel. And so very exciting to see someone like that. I know the people of Israel will welcome that. But, no, he is a great pick. He has led many tours to Israel over the years and always has been an unapologetic supporter of Israel. I expect when the confirmation, though, comes up, that he'll get a lot of questions, especially from Democrats. Okay, we all know that you support Israel, but what about the Palestinians?
Yeah, he'll have a good answer for that.
Yep, he will.
I'm sure he will. Mike Huckabee. I call him Mike because we don't talk. Every year, maybe once every 2 or 3 years. But I do know him, and he and my dad were really good friends.
Yep.
So it's good to see Mike Huckabee. If you could my guess is if you could ask Mike Huckabee what is one job you would want if you weren't president of the United States, he would probably say U.S. ambassador to Israel.
Exactly. Yeah. When I saw that, I thought that could not be a better pick, especially coming from our side.
Yes.
I mean, to know his history being a pastor.
Right.
Anyways, dream team.
Yeah.
Gonna be a better pick.
And, of course, his daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of Arkansas right now, very proud of her dad. Cut number 10.
My dad was just nominated as President Trump's ambassador to Israel. I had the chance to go to Israel for the very first time with my dad when I was 11 years old, and it literally changed my life. There's no greater supporter and nobody that has a greater understanding of our two nations' unbreakable bond. And there is probably a little bit of bias, but there's no one who will do a better job in this role. Congratulations, Dad. We're all very proud of you.
Amen and amen.
All right, what else was announced yesterday in terms of people on the new Trump team?
Well, the one that's getting a lot of discussion is President Trump's appointment or his desire to have a young man by the name of Pete Hegseth to be the next Secretary of Defense. Now, if you're a regular Fox viewer, you have seen Pete Hegseth on that network for the last 10 years. You may not be aware, perhaps, that he has a military background. He was a National Guard captain. He served in Iraq, served in Afghanistan, active duty there. But most recently, he has been a Fox host, but also a very well-known advocate for our military and a very sharp critic of the wokeness that he feels has taken over at the Pentagon. So this is one that's going to be very interesting. We've heard some rumblings, even amongst some Republicans, that they think he doesn't have the experience to be the Secretary of Defense. But others are saying a pair of fresh eyes, a guy who does have some military background, but also is understanding of the problems inside the Pentagon, and we've talked about it on this program many times. Here's a little bit of what Pete Hegseth has had to say in the past about the problems inside the military. Cut number 12.
There's a chance to course correct it, but it would take the new Trump administration going after it really hard.
How would they correct it?
Well, first of all, you got to fire you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever that was involved in any of the DEI woke, it's got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. And that's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking. And then, whatever the standards, whatever the combat standards were, say, in, 1995, let's just make those the standards. And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve. And there's lots of other ways in which you could identify who gets promoted and what, but there's an ethos change. I mean, there's a reason people don't want to serve, because they don't trust that their senior leaders are going to have their best interest in mind in combat. I know there were mistakes made on our tours all over the place. Mm-hmm. But I, at least for the most part, had a sense that my senior leaders were committed to the completion of the mission for the right reasons. And maybe there were strategic differences and all that other stuff, and it wasn't always perfect, but that trust is broken. And you have to reestablish that trust by putting in no-nonsense warfighters in those positions who aren't going to cater to the socially correct garbage.
So if you want to know his philosophy or what he's going into this job, what his thinking is, you just heard it.
Okay, so, pardon me. So President-elect Trump, these announcements keep coming every day about what his new administration, his new team, if you want to call it that, is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And so this is a shocker.
Yeah,
to
this
me.
would be a surprise.
This is a shocker. Pete Hegseth, Hegseth, who I know people who know him and know him well, and I've seen him on Fox News, as we all have. He's been on there for years, right? Mm-hmm. He was on the weekend as a co-host.
Co-host, that's correct. Fox and
Friends. So he is very, very knowledgeable about the United States military. He did serve in Iraq on
In
the
Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan.
Mhm.
I think he reached the level somebody said of
Captain.
Captain. However, the reason I say it's a shock is I can't remember a Secretary of Defense being A, this young, but I don't know them all, and B, this inexperienced at working at the Pentagon, for example, moving up the ranks, so to speak. Now, I'm not saying he's not capable. I'm just saying that he's going to get drilled when he gets before that. Is it the Senate or the House or
Well, he'll
or
have
joint
to be
committee?
unless it's a recess appointment. He would have to be confirmed by the Senate.
As Secretary of Defense, that's a cabinet level position. We're talking Colin Powell type.
Well, the current Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, is
Lloyd
a
Austin.
retired 4-star general.
Yeah, so it's those type of people, generals, who usually reach the level of being Secretary of Defense. Again, I'm not saying that Pete is not, and I don't know him personally. So
I think the way you're saying it is fine. It's just
Okay,
a
go ahead.
surprise. Like you said, I mean, I saw it too. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's it. So it's a surprise. But like you said, I like how you're also caveat that is we're unsure if he's capable of doing it. One thing we do know is he's saying the right things.
Oh yeah,
I mean, so
I mean, absolutely. Everything he just said a while ago
is amen and amen.
Amen and amen. Ed, what do you think?
I think he's going to have a hard time being confirmed. Okay, now this is sidestepping the question about whether the Senate, even Senate Republicans, are going to allow the President-elect Trump, to use recess appointments, which give you someone automatically, they come into the cabinet. You don't have to wait for the Senate to be in session, and then they have a 2-year trial run before they need to be officially confirmed, up to 2 years. So setting aside that, if they have to go through the confirmation process, I think this is going to be a hard sell. Now, and I'm with you guys. I loved everything Pete Hegseth said. I think whoever is Secretary of Defense, it may very well be Pete Hegseth, but they need to dismantle this CRT, DEI garbage, which is going to do nothing but or continue to erode our fighting potential. All right, because as someone once said, the military exists to break things and kill people. That's the job they have.
Yep.
And people may say, well, that's a shame. We should all live in peace. Yeah, okay. Well, one day the world will be at peace when Jesus comes back. But before that, you have militaries that break things and kill people. And they need to be able to do that efficiently. And so I think he's going to have a hard row to hoe, even convincing Republicans. Now, I was just looking up past secretaries of state. They're not all military people.
Right.
I don't think like Casper Weinberger was a military person.
That's a good point.
There can be
someone who's good at administrating.
Yeah, they got to know what their.
What about Gates? I don't think Gates was a military guy. The guy who served under Bush, who was the president of Texas A&M before he went up there.
That's a good question.
So you're right. To your point, doesn't have to be a general.
And the reason we're spending so much time on this particular cabinet nominee from President-elect Trump is because he's the only one that we're looking at saying this may be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But the rest of them.
But
your point, let me just say, Bob Gates was an American intelligence analyst and university president, but not military as far as I can tell.
But I think it's another demonstration of a new way of thinking. I mean,
I agree with that.
J.D. Vance is only 40 years old.
That's true.
Hegseth is 44.
That's right.
So J.D. Vance is one heartbeat away from the presidency in a few months.
That's true.
So
I just want to make sure they all have their driver's license. I'm talking about the new people on the Trump team.
Hey, but hold on now. We've also joked about how old a lot of the people have been in politics lately too.
Yeah.
So this is quite a shift. Now it's pretty radical compared to some of those that serve in Washington D.C. But at the same time, we We gave people a hard time for that reason too.
Well, all right, let's move on to Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk.
Fred did have one thing to add to this.
Well, I think it's also the influence of Don Jr. on his dad.
Yeah,
Don Jr.
He's running the White House right now.
Well, he's basically running the transition operation.
Yeah, he is.
Well, and that's playing the long game too by getting young blood.
Yeah.
So
the other thing is to Pete.
Exeth.
He has a lot of children.
Yeah,
small children, I think.
Yeah,
and they live in the Nashville area.
Lives up in the Nashville area.
No, so anyway, we'll see how it goes. I love his worldview and his
goals.
His goals, and he is a Christian man. So all that I like about him, and I agree with Ed. It might be hard for him to get through, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Now, Elon Musk, who also has a bunch of kids, and Vivek Ramaswamy, I don't know how he's reproducing there, but those two gentlemen are going to have is it a non-official?
It's not a cabinet position.
Okay.
But they are going to head up a new what's called, quote, Department of Government Efficiency, end quote. I think there's a short, what are they calling this? Dogo or something like that.
What?
Anyway.
There's an acronym?
Yeah, they're already developing that.
It's DOGE, I think. Department of Government Efficiency.
Yes. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, it's not a cabinet position, so these guys have a job. Someone told me that Elon Musk is not even going to ask a salary. He's just going to have fun because he thinks the government is big and fat, and it's going to be their job to slim it down. This is going to be entertaining, if nothing else, when they start recommending. They're going to have what's called a leaderboard that the public, I guess, are creating a website, and you're going to be able to see on an hour-by-hour, day-by-day basis, this is how your tax dollars are being spent, folks.
Right.
There's one example already given this morning. Apparently, what was it? The Social Services Department, the big building that's in Washington that has room for hundreds and hundreds of employees, is only 7% occupied because everybody's working from home.
Oh, okay.
And they're paying like $100,000 a month of taxpayers' money, and the place is almost empty.
That's probably one of 100 examples.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's also the talk of moving some of these, like education department, out in
I think that's
Oklahoma.
a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
Get that started. So are you saying Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy will be
heading that part up?
The part about moving some of these agencies out of D.C.?
They'll be making recommendations.
Okay.
I do want to say that Vivek Ramaswamy and his wife only have 2 children, so they're slackers. Okay.
Yeah.
So
come on, man.
Let's go.
Get going.
Compared to Pete.
All right. So Biden and Trump are meeting at the White House with a fire. The fire in the fireplace in the background. It's very cordial. And
we're watching this on our TV.
Yeah, we're watching it on our TV, and they're probably talking about remember when. Remember when?
Remember when my supporters were garbage?
We'll be back in a minute. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Jesus once said that if a blind man leads a blind man, both will fall into a pit. Well, the truth of those words happened a few years ago in Malaysia. A cross-country race was held. The race was to cover a 7-mile course. 2 hours after the race had begun, ample time for the runners to cover the course. None of the runners had returned. The officials, fearing that something might have happened, set out in automobiles to find the runners. The officials found all the runners 6 miles away and sprinting in the wrong direction. Many of the runners had already covered distances of 10 miles. A.J. Rogers, the association secretary that sponsored the race, said the mix-up apparently occurred when the lead runner took a wrong turn at the 5th checkpoint, and the rest followed him. Sometimes this happens. We play follow the leader without knowing where the leader is going. We do things simply because someone else does them. We make our decisions because someone else has made the same decision before us. And while this is not always bad, it most certainly isn't always good. All of us should be aware of where it is that we're going. One of the greatest mistakes so many make in our society is that of running as fast as they can, following the person in front of them, trying desperately to catch up, and not knowing where the fellow they are following is headed. Occasionally someone will come along who will consider where it is that he wants to go. He stops long enough to study where following the man in front will lead. These people make up their own minds about which way the race should be going. The Galilean was a fellow like this. There was a full-fledged race going on when he came upon the scene. All the runners were following the leaders. They were pushing with all they had to keep up to be abreast, racing with the crowd. The leaders had always run their path, and they never questioned its authenticity. They simply took for granted that the runner in front was going the right way. Then he came into the race. He saw where those who were supposed to be leading the race were headed, and he knew that that was not the path that the judge had set for the race. So he stopped, took note of the roads, and headed off in another direction. And since he was the leader in this new direction, the leaders that were going in the other direction became very angry that he should do such a thing. Why didn't he follow them like all the other runners? Of course, the only thing to do was to belittle him and eventually get rid of him. He could prove dangerous to the course they were leading. You know, somehow this same idea of following the leader that prevailed back then is still around today. If the first car passes an injured man on the highway, all the others are supposed to do the same. If one man makes a joke about Christian values or Christians, then all the others are supposed to do the same. If one person shuns another because of a different color, then we must all shun him. It's a game we play. We call it follow the leader. I believe I would rather know where I'm going than to be in a hurry to follow the person in front of me.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
In him we were also chosen, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything in conformity with the purpose of his will. Ephesians 1:11.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred, thank you again for listening to AFR. We're talking about Trump's new team that he keeps announcing members of each day. And, Ed, you have before you a Politico. The website has these different, I guess, leadership positions within the Trump administration that have been announced, right?
Yes, and it has a little, like a tracker. So what I did is I went to my search bar and typed in Trump cabinet picks, and the first one that popped up was the Politico tracker. And it has, of course, none have been confirmed yet. 6 have been announced, open 18. And it's pretty handy.
18 cabinet positions?
18?
Left.
So, I mean, here, this is, well, Chief of Staff doesn't need to be confirmed.
That's
but
not a cabinet position.
There is Secretaries of State, Treasury, Defense, the AG, Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, Labor, HHS, HUD, HUD, DOT, Energy, Education, Veterans Affairs, Department of Homeland Security, EPA, ODNI. I have no idea what that is.
All right.
Trade, UNC.
I got an idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we just cut those right in half? That's too many.
If we don't know what they are, there shouldn't be somebody.
No, what is DOT, Department of Transportation?
Transportation.
Is that what Mayor Pete's in charge of?
Oh, yeah.
Right now?
Yeah. So SBA, that'd be small business.
Fully qualified, but yeah.
What does Mayor Pete do now? Where does he go in his career? What's his path forward?
You know what, Dad? Let me just tell you what. I don't care. I don't care where he
You don't
goes.
care what Mayor Pete does?
No.
ODNI is Director of National Intelligence. I guess that's probably pretty important, but it's also kind of deep statey.
Yeah, but there's some of the. In all seriousness, while I do support the first step of moving them out of D.C., I also agree that the next step would be trimming this. Maybe not in half, but in
federal government, somebody needs to take a meat. Somebody needs to take a meat cleaver.
Yes.
To the federal government. It's just unbelievably.
I couldn't say half. I don't know if I'd cut half of these, but at least a third minimum.
Yeah. What comes with all these agencies, and you do. I mean, you have to have government. I mean, for law and order. But I'm just saying, what comes with a lot of these agencies over time is sort of mission creep, if you will. And
they invade on states' rights. That's the problem.
Exactly, and they come up with policy and regulation after regulation after regulation after regulation.
And the thing is, their regulations are not law.
Right.
They have the force of law, but they're not voted on by Congress.
Right. So we'll see what happens.
We need to move on
today. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, this DOGE, the Elon / Vivek group that they're also going to be cutting regulations. It's not just carving up the bureaucracy or coming up with a plan to move these alphabet agencies around the country, kind of break up that cabal in Washington, D.C., but also these regulations we're talking about. They're going to try to cut through a lot of that so that businesses can get going. They can make more money and therefore hire more people.
Yes.
I think.
All right, next story, Fred.
Well, let's stick with the Trump visit to the White House just for a second.
Okay, which just took place, right?
Which just took place. You may have noted, you've been watching on TV, that First Lady again-to-be Melania Trump did not make the trip to Washington today. However, she did make an announcement yesterday as to why she was not going to go and sit down with Jill Biden. And there's a little bit of
Jill Biden, you said?
Jill Biden,
okay,
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Which traditionally, apparently part of the tradition is that the First Lady-to-be meets with the First Lady that's in the White House right now. Well, Melania Trump did produce a reason why she wasn't going today with her husband to the White House. There's a little bit of music behind it, but have a listen to what she had to say. Cut number 8.
I never imagined my privacy would be invaded by the government here in America. The FBI raided my home in Florida and searched through my personal belongings. This is not just my story. It serves as a warning to all Americans, a reminder that our freedom and rights must be respected.
So she's saying she declined the invitation to go to the White House today because apparently she is holding Joe Biden responsible for the order of that raid on Mar-a-Lago.
Well, ultimately, it is his responsibility. I don't know that anyone's ever going to be able to prove that he personally ordered the Mar-a-Lago raid, but it's his administration. So he has to take responsibility for the fact that his political enemy.
Well, he raided himself too then.
What's that?
Biden. Because they discovered all those documents that he didn't turn back in.
I think that was found by media. And then I think the
Chinatown and all that.
Oh,
you remember that?
I'm
not kidding.
I'm
Look
lost.
it up. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Continue your thought uninterrupted by Tim.
I think it was because of the media the alternative media coverage of the Biden administration that the Department of Justice had to start an investigation on Biden because he himself mentioned, I think, in a speech that he's got. Remember, he said it's in my Mustang, but it's not like it's parked out on the street.
Yeah, Mustang.
Was it a Mustang?
That's an insult to Corvette drivers.
Oh, Corvette.
In
his I don't know what it was.
In his garage.
Honda
well, listen,
Civic.
Two things. One is the bottom line is here that Melania Trump did not go to the White House because she felt violated and offended by the raid. The FBI, was it FBI raid on her home? And
they broke in early in the morning.
Yeah, they were supposedly, they did have a court order to go and look for documents that they say Trump shouldn't have taken, that they belong to the National Archives and they were sensitive. We all know that story there.
Yeah.
So anyway, she just said she's not going, and that was her decision. President Trump did meet with, there's a picture now, they met a few minutes ago at the White House with President Biden.
They're playing checkers.
Yeah, they're going to go to the Waffle House, I think.
Or McDonald's.
Or McDonald's, or maybe. All right, so anyway.
Ice cream cone.
All right, so that's good to see. That's good to see them doing that. Next story, Fred.
Well, after his visit to the White House, President-elect Trump is going to have a visit to whoever is going to be the replacement for Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, which I understand that vote, maybe you guys are seeing something different, that vote is still continuing at the Capitol. Now, one of those contending to be the new Mitch McConnell is Senator Rick Scott of Florida, cut number 5.
The next leader needs to be somebody that is just getting Trump's agenda done. That is the most important thing. We know what we have to do in the Senate. What we need to do is have a plan to get it all accomplished. That's what I've done my whole life. I was governor of Florida. I know what to do. I will get it done. I will make sure Trump's agenda is done, and I think that's why I'm going to win.
All right, so that's one. He's got a couple of competitors there. So we don't know the result of that vote yet, but we should probably in the next hour or so.
All right, well, we'll wait and see what happens there.
Who are the top contenders, though? Help us out.
Thune and Cornyn.
Yes.
And Rick Scott.
Rick Scott.
Yes.
Thune from South Dakota, Cornyn from Texas, and Rick Scott from Florida, yeah.
Somebody has to get 51%, so it may go to 2 votes.
Usually it does, doesn't it?
We're on
in this type of situation.
Yes.
You can expect.
So we're waiting to see. But there's a lot of talk, about the politics, the chemistry in the Senate. A lot of people saying we don't want another Mitch McConnell because Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump did not get along in his first round as president. So there's a lot of talk going on there. Mm-hmm. And we want somebody who's going to get along with President Trump. So we'll have to wait. It's a very important position.
And what we don't want is someone running the Senate on the Republican side,
yes,
the majority party, working against Donald Trump and his agenda.
Are any of them under 40 years old?
That would be no.
I don't think so.
I thought we were trying to.
Well, no. J.D. Vance, probably the youngest senator. He's 40, right?
Yeah.
By the way, he is in the vote today on this.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Any announcement from the governor of Ohio who's going to take J.D. Vance's place in the Senate?
Have not seen that yet. Nope.
Okay.
No. Somebody was suggesting Vivek Ramaswamy, but he's busy.
Yep, he is now for sure.
He's too busy.
There are certain personalities you don't see in a certain position, and Vivek Ramaswamy is a dynamic personality and strikes me as a AA personality, and he's not going to sit in the Senate chamber and listen to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and conduct business.
No, that just ain't happening.
Yeah.
So anyway, Vivek Ramaswamy is the guy I would hire if I were Trump to fire everybody.
Well, now but the position that he's creating or they're going to do is
with Elon Musk.
With Elon Musk is in a roundabout way. He will be making recommendations on who to fire.
Yeah.
So in some ways,
what agencies are part of the deep state? Who's part of the deep state?
And who needs to go and who needs to stay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I do want to. Let me just be a little pessimistic here.
Go for it.
Okay. And I'm not being liberal. All right.
Just pessimistic.
But let me just remind everybody that as much as we would like to see the the swamp drained, is the way Trump put it in 2016, it is very difficult.
Yes.
It is very difficult to take apart a bureaucracy once it has been formed, because it is like I talked to my son Tony about this. He said it is like a living organism that protects itself. So think about poking a rattlesnake, okay? It is going to strike back, and there is no stopping a Democratic Party candidate who might win in the future from reconstituting the bureaucracy. So it's kind of an ongoing fight to try to deconstruct this behemoth that has been created really over the last 100 years.
We're going to chip away at it, Ed.
Chip away. No, listen, I'm glad President Trump is doing this. It needs to be done. And I hope that he's able to streamline the government quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll believe it. I'll see it when I believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Best intentions are good, and I do think they have. But now, okay, not to be liberal, as you say, Ed.
Yeah, that's right.
Trump doesn't care about the debt, in my opinion.
I think that's, and neither do most of the other Republicans.
No, the other Republicans do either.
Most.
The Republicans stopped caring about the debt and deficit spending when the American people quit caring about it.
That's
so none of us really care. Because it's too painful for the American people to accept cuts in government spending.
Once you've gotten used to getting the blessings.
Yeah. So my prediction is, let's eat, drink, and be merry. Because
tomorrow we go bankrupt.
Tomorrow we go bankrupt, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. Except,
wow,
well, I mean, what do you?
I started it. No, listen, I started.
I used to bang that drum about 10 years ago. Remember
Tea Party movement?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tea Party movement. I remember thinking about, man, how much in debt can a country go before it implodes? And I thought, 15 trillion? Well, of course, I didn't understand economics other than that's bad, right?
Well, to your point about the Tea Party, that was 15 years ago, 2009. Right. And we haven't gone bankrupt yet. So you can see where people would be going.
The little boy that cried wolf.
Yeah. Exactly.
I was a little boy.
Yeah.
And you were.
I was.
We were saying they can't keep going like this, this deficit spending at trillions of dollars. Well, yes, we can. We're at 30, whatever we are.
We have 38 yet?
30.
I'll check.
So we, the United States of America, quite frankly, and now some people say, well, no, it's causing inflation.
That's what Rob West mentioned last night.
Maybe so. I don't know. But you're always going to have inflation go and come in any kind of an economy.
Yeah, he said it could get worse, though, eventually. Rob West, meaning.
Well, he may be right.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that would be the result.
You would think that he would be
35 trillion.
35 trillion in debt.
Almost 36.
So what I'm saying, though, Wesley, and again, I don't mean to sound pessimistic. I'm saying that the deficit spending by the United States federal government at the levels it's at now is not going to change. So we will keep going until we have a doomsday collapse.
Yeah, I don't think that's nobody's arguing that. I think you're right. I think what y'all are saying is just it hasn't happened at the rate that we predicted.
Right.
But it's coming.
The American economy can absorb, well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know, as long as you have as long as you're the world's reserve currency, and I don't know.
The deficit for fiscal year 2024.
We'll let y'all have y'all a few more minutes, and we're going to move on.
We're getting over our head. But
is 1.83 trillion.
That's annual deficit?
This year.
Oh, this year.
1.8. So that's going to be added to the
I'm just saying to you, I think Trump is going to do a lot of wonderful things, and his team. But cutting spending is not going to be one of them because there's no will among the general public and there's no will among Republicans in Congress. They give it lip service, and Democrats certainly don't give a rip.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
They would go more in debt if they could. So go ahead. You're listening to Financial News Today.
And I hope we've cheered everybody up.
Yes, we have. Go ahead, Fred.
What does the name Marnie Washington mean to you guys?
Marnie.
Like Washington. Marnie Washington.
Marnie. Huh?
Yeah, well, I know who she is just because we've talked about her. So.
Well, she's the FEMA worker in Florida who had something against helping people who were suffering from a hurricane if they had Trump signs on their lawn.
No soup for you.
Yes. Well, she is now explaining, I'll just read this. The House Oversight Committee is going to hold a hearing with FEMA Administrator Dan Criswell about all of this after one of her officials. And she is now, Marnie Washington, the worker, is now explaining why she may have done what she is accused of doing. Cut number 6.
They all allege that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. Unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance.
I don't. Okay,
she's a government worker.
She just admitted to what she did.
Very literally.
Yeah.
Yes.
She said the houses that we didn't help just happened to have Trump signs.
You can't do that. You can't do that. You cannot discriminate against helping people based on a sign in their
political
yard.
views.
Now, if you want to walk up to the house and these people start cursing you, yeah, you leave and you say, "Sorry, we won't bother you anymore, but here's my card." but you can't discriminate. No, you can't discriminate against people, and you're representing the federal government, and you're there to add aid to people who have been affected by the storms, and they got a Trump sign in their yard, so you don't walk up there. That's they'll get sued all day, every day on that one, and they'll lose.
As a policy. She instituted this as a policy. This wasn't just workers saying, you know what, I'm not going up there. She said, avoid them.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
of Trump supporters.
Yeah, I mean, would you do that to any other group? Would you say, hey, we're here to help people in this neighborhood, but don't help the black folks because, man, you might be, those 17-year-old black boys, they're trouble. So don't go up to the house.
Yeah.
What if they did that?
No, there would be a firing offense, and with absolute validity. You can't say
you can't do that.
We're not helping Jews. We're not helping Polish people.
Right.
We're
not helping people with a Trump sign in their yard.
It's federal money that's meant to help everyone in a disaster area.
Yeah. So I'm kind of surprised that she's kind of saying they threw me under the bus, isn't she?
Well, yeah,
my bosses are throwing me under the bus because they're the ones who told me.
She's not. What's not being answered there, and the clip may be longer, but she apparently, I'm looking here, she sent out a text that had in the text, she sent it to the FEMA workers, and in the text here, and it's a screenshot of it, it says, it's got bullet points. Do these things for best practice, it says. And number 2, it said avoid homes that are advertising Trump. So but that's preemptive. That didn't say. It didn't say avoid homes that are hostile and have Trump signs.
Right.
It says if she's
caught
caught with her hand.
Yeah, they're in trouble with that one there.
And I will be honest, I did not understand what she was trying to say in her own defense.
Let's play it again. Play it again.
It makes
play
no
it again,
sense.
Sam.
It's a word.
All right, who are we about to hear?
This is Marnie Washington.
That's her first name.
M-A-R-N-I.
Yeah,
okay.
That's what I have here.
All right, she's the FEMA representative.
Yes.
In Florida,
Mm-hmm.
who Wesley quoted, and she texted out, "Don't go to don't help people who have Trump signs."
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, play it again.
They all allege that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. Unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on 2 different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance.
I don't know. That's gobbledygook.
I think I understand now what she's trying to say. She is trying to say that, and I don't believe it because of the text.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And this was best practices. She's trying to say that they encountered hostility from people when they walked up to, and it just so happened that those all had Trump signs.
So she says.
I don't believe that for a second. If you're talking about people who are desperate for help, they're not going to say, "Oh, you're from the Biden administration. Don't get off my property." I don't buy that for a second.
Also, too, in the event we mentioned this yesterday, hypothetically, that there was a case in which there was a Trump sign at a house that was hostile, you can't then say all.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's called discrimination, and you can't practice that based on a sign in the yard.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna act on the principle that
you had that one person that was a Trump supporter.
Well, if you're going to act on the principle, which is an American principle of fairness, that you can't group everybody together because of their skin color or because of their
political views or their religious views.
Yeah, or whatever. You treat people as individuals.
That's right.
So that's why we don't.
Sounds American there.
That's the American system. Now, is it always practiced? No, there's been discrimination.
And you get fired for not doing it.
What I didn't understand, what I said was gobbledygook right there. What she was saying was, she says at first we practice avoidance, and then we practice de-escalation. That doesn't make any sense, because how can you have a de-escalating situation if you've avoided them?
Right. Well, this goes back to her hostility towards those who support Donald Trump. They avoid those first, expecting that they're going to have a hostile encounter. Okay. And I guess what she's saying is sometimes they might not have signs, and then our practice is to de-escalate. But all of that is a bunch of garbage. She clearly laid out, in her text, and said it verbally. This was also the report. We're just not doing homes that have Trump signs. Avoid those. And that's illegal, and she got fired, and I'm glad she did.
Yep.
And if the situation were reversed, I'd be glad that a conservative got fired.
It'd be all over the news every day, all day.
Yeah.
Different. All right, Fred, you got 1 minute here before our break. What do you
Well,
got?
if you're an employee at CNN today,
This is CNN.
You are nervous. You are very nervous.
Why is that, Fred?
Because management there has let it be known there's a bunch of layoffs coming. Even the Associated Press was reporting that CNN's audiences have plummeted. They're now in certain cases, below MSNBC.
Wow, really?
And of course, primetime 800,000 has compared Fox 2.5 million. Yesterday, we found out Chris Wallace quit. 77-year-old Chris Wallace, whose dad was a star at CBS. And Chris Wallace had a very nice job at Fox. Why he jumped to CNN, people are scratching their heads. But apparently some of the stars at CNN have already been told. Now, don't feel too sorry for them. They're being paid millions of dollars.
Anderson Cooper gets like $20 million a year.
Oh, yeah. Jake Tapper.
Yeah.
Wolf Blitzer. They've been told they're not getting any salary increases, but they make $3 or $6 million or something like that. So don't feel too sorry. But the lower downs, be very nervous because they're going to start cutting programs.
I think the best video I saw on election day was Jake Tapper. Remember, he was in front of that map where he asked the guy, okay, now where is Kamala Harris outperforming Joe Biden in 2020? And the guy popped up this gray blank map of the United States, and he said, Jake Tapper said, what? You mean nowhere?
Well, yeah.
That was the best moment of the election.
All right, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
You're aware of how important it is to stay engaged in America's culture war. One way American Family Association helps you to do that is through action alerts. Here's how it works. Once or twice a week, we'll email you about matters critical to America's families, and we'll offer ways to take action. Visit afa.net today and tap the Action Alert sign-up button.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, almost DQ. President-elect Donald Trump and President Joe Biden have been meeting this morning at the White House talking about the transition.
In many cases, not a very nice world, but it is a nice world today, and I appreciate it very much. A transition that's so smooth, it'll be as smooth as it can get, and I very much appreciate that, Jim.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
President-elect Donald Trump's pick for defense secretary sends shockwaves across Washington. Brian Smells reports from Capitol Hill.
Army National Guard Major, author, and Fox and Friends weekend host Pete Hegseth wasn't a name many in Washington were tracking to join the Trump administration. Republican House Armed Services Committee Chairman Mike Rogers of Alabama says he doesn't know much about Hegseth, but says he's looking forward to meeting him. Washington Congressman Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, says
the lack of experience is concerning.
Some Republicans are expressing confidence in President-elect Trump's decision-making. On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
President Trump is expected to nominate GOP Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, shifting focus to the state of Florida, where Governor DeSantis will be tasked with appointing a replacement in the Senate. Here's a sample of what Rubio plans to address.
I'm not on Russia's side, but unfortunately the reality of it is that the way the war in Ukraine is going to end is with a negotiated settlement. And I want, and we want, and I believe Donald Trump wants, for Ukraine to have more leverage in that negotiation. They're playing a long game here, and Hamas thinks they have the upper hand. But this is a group that wants to destroy Israel. Hamas exists to destroy the Jewish state of Israel. What are you supposed to do with an existential threat? You have to degrade it or eliminate it. You cannot allow it to continue to survive. The Biden administration is filled with a bunch of traditional, conventional political figures that grew up over the last 20 years talking about cooperating with China. We saw how that worked out. They took all of our jobs. They took all of our factories. They got rich. We got poor. Their middle class grew. Our middle class shrunk.
President Trump is wasting no time appointing people to serve in his administration, but one position we've not seen named is Education Secretary. More from Bronson Woodruff.
Gary Bauer, president of American Values, didn't share any predictions with AFN of who it might be, but he did say there are a number of outstanding possibilities, including the former Secretary of Education under Trump, Betsy DeVos. Bauer added that among the good candidates for Education Secretary, there may be some who would not be willing to have the dramatic lifestyle change that will happen if they're nominated. He said DeVos's life became impossible. She had to have virtually 24-hour security, and she could not speak at public events for the first couple of years because of disruptions from the radical left. However, Trump has indicated he wants to get rid of the Department of Education, which would mean, of course, no Education Secretary. Bauer previously served as Undersecretary of Education under President Ronald Reagan. He tells AFN President Reagan also wanted to get rid of the Department of Education, but did not succeed.
All the way back to Reagan, the promise was we would get rid of the Department of Education. And we ended up finding out, sadly, that that was almost impossible. Reagan came in 1 year after the department had been created, and it was created either in the House or Senate by one vote. We couldn't find 10 members of the Senate that were willing to sponsor a bill that would abolish it.
Bauer said he's hopeful Trump will succeed in getting rid of the department.
The federal bureaucracy grew bigger and bigger to the point where today it tries to force local school districts to follow a big government agenda.
I'm Bronson Woodruff.
The Consumer Price Index rises 0.2% in October, with the year-over-year inflation at 2.6%, according to the Labor Department, meeting analyst expectations. Pennsylvania Republican Congressman Dan Muser praising President-elect Trump's policy on trade.
That's just going to drive American, I was about to say Pennsylvanian, because that's true too, but American goods and services far more competitively overseas. The Biden administration was completely asleep at the wheel during all of that.
2 employees have died following an explosion at a Louisville, Kentucky factory that caused a partial collapse of the building and blew out windows in nearby homes and businesses. More news online at afn.net and on the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. We believe true morality flows from biblical principles and directs people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues, the name of the show. I'm Tim with Ed and Wesley, and Chris Plaid Woodard joins us.
Thank you.
It's just for today. You won't. Don't worry about it.
No, I've received that designation before.
Yeah.
It's a badge of honor.
You're a plaid man, are you?
You can call me whatever you want as long as you continue to send my paycheck.
Okay.
I'll
That's
get
right.
your
plaid shirt from middle
I'll
school.
get your dry cleaning and restripe the parking lot. Make the
That's
popcorn.
commitment right there, my
Yes,
friend.
it is.
All right, Wesley, before we go to our guests, you got something to announce?
Yes, sir. I'd like to announce that we are starting back our annual conferences, and we have Biblical Bedrock Building on the Authority of Scripture Summit.
Could you name it any
longer?
Yeah, I think you need a longer name.
Well, you know, we can
Hold on.
go back
Hold
and
on just a
revisit
second.
this.
All right. We used to have what's called Marriage and Family Life Conference.
That's right.
Annually in the summer here in Tupelo, and we had 2,000 or 3,000 people sometimes come from around the country to attend. We skipped that last year.
That's right.
So this is a conference that's of the same nature, but it's renamed this name with 10 words, which that was not a marketing genius.
It is, and let me explain why. It's called the Activate Summit. It's the Activate Summit.
I'd go with that.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
And I can explain
Explain.
why we have the name.
Quickly.
Activate. We have an annual. We're going to have an annual Activate Summit. Within the Activate Summit, we're going to have a different topic each year, and the topic for this year is building on the authority of Scripture. And so the emphasis is going to be very similar to the God who speaks. If you think about the idea that the Bible, we're going to look at things. Well, Frank Turk there, so we'll look at how the Bible came about.
Gotcha.
Being able to defend the Bible being inspired, inerrant, and authoritative.
I got you.
You get the idea. So
Yeah.
we're going to have a
So
topic.
when is it? And how can people learn more about it?
June 12th through the 14th. June 12th to the 14th of 2025 is our Activate Summit 2025. You can go to afa.net/events. afa.net/events. It'll be hosted here in Tupelo at our in Tupelo,
At our hometown.
At our hometown, not our headquarters, right? Our hometown, at the Cadence Center, same place as we had the Marriage Family Life. There will be an Activate Kids program for ages 6 through 12. Activate Kids program that will complement all that will be taught in the main course will then also be taught for the children as well.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to activate 6-year-olds. I think they already have enough energy.
That's
as it
right.
is.
That's right.
So,
Did you give the website?
Yeah. How can you read more about this now?
Go to activate.afa.net, and there's a tab that says Summit. Activate.afa.net.
And when is it?
June 12th through the 14th of 2025.
Okay. You're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Dr. Robert Gagnon has been on with us a couple times in the last few weeks to discuss Christians in politics and voting and the election and so forth and so on. And he has a new column out at the Federalist, thefederalist.com. Wanted to ask him about what this new column is about. And Robert joins us now. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning.
For those who don't know, you've been on with us before. What you do every day?
Well, I'm visiting scholar at Wesley Biblical Seminary in Ridgeland, Mississippi, and I'm teaching a course currently for them on the Bible and homosexuality and transgenderism. It's an area that I've worked a lot on in the last 25 years, doing a 500-page book, another book, number of articles, encyclopedia entries, and so forth.
Yeah,
I'd also like to say that Dr. Gagnon is probably the leading Christian scholar on this subject of what the Bible says about homosexuality, same-sex attraction, transgenderism, and including in that defending the Christian Orthodox view of human sexuality, marriage, and family.
Amen.
And let me tell you, this brother takes his lumps for doing that because he gets attacked all the time. So when he says that he's writing about this, he's the go-to guy in the Christian community in this country.
That was Ed, Robert, if you want to send him a Christmas like a gift card or something. Ed was the one.
I'm on it right now.
Yeah.
He likes pizza.
Yeah.
I'd actually
that was
rather
an-
have his book.
Yeah. All right. Your latest column in thefederalist.com is voters decided Democrats are the biggest threat to democracy. What are you saying there?
Well, of course, it's very ironic that Trump supporters were called the biggest threat to democracy, and of course, Trump himself. But it's the exact opposite, and that's why the Democrats lost. And basically, I break it down into three areas, which is the promotion of LGBTQ immorality, the promotion of abortion, the loss of freedoms of speech and exercise of religion, and various other ways, anti-republic proposals that they've made in order to push their agenda through. Everything from the illegal immigration scam to the packing and term limits for the courts, new states out of Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia so they can control the Senate, and on it goes. So really the great threat was clearly Harris and Walz. And their two primary idols are, again, LGBTQ immorality and abortion. And everything else, all the other cheating that goes on, is in service of that agenda. So basically the article consists of just listing off the various elements within each of those categories that pose a threat to the republic.
Were you surprised that Trump won as big as he did?
You know, I prayed earnestly on my knees often every day that Trump would actually not only win, but have a convincing victory where he would actually sweep all 7 swing states. But I have to confess to you that my faith wavered at many points on that. And that includes the night of the election when I was listening to the returns. But God is gracious in spite of our weaknesses. In faith at times, God miraculously brought that through. And what that meant was that he spared us from a much greater evil that could occur. Every candidate has failings. And as we all know, Trump has a few personal character failings from the past, although he's not been so bad.
He's not aware of that, but you can go ahead.
Yeah, he's not. Well, of course, because everything Trump does is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Humility is something he has to work on a little bit. That would be number one of things. But in terms of policy issues, there's a great deal of good that Trump will accomplish on our behalf, and that includes the transgender nonsense that has been going on. I think that really that has become the big issue. And I actually argued before the election that it ought to be the greatest concern for Christians. There are many concerns that we should have, of course, multiple ones. But I think that rises to the top as the key one because for many reasons. Number one, you're eliminating the whole foundation of human sexuality by saying that there's no objective biological basis to sex. It's just whatever anyone says that he or she is. And that cancels out a very important dimension, what I would argue one of the two central dimensions of creation in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. And along with that comes really severe consequences, as we all know, like chemical castration of minors with puberty blockers and cross-gender hormones and mutilation surgery. Also, of course, the intrusion of males in female private spaces and sports. And along with that goes you have to have a major indoctrination thrust to your political agenda because people basically have to lie. So it becomes, who you're going to believe, your lying eyes or our, LGBTQ ideology. Well, we can see that a man can't become a woman at every dimension because the whole body is organized reproductively in such a way that you have two primary sexes, male and female. And now that's been completely denied. So if you can actually pass that agenda through to society, that there is actually no biological basis for sex, you can pretty much push any agenda through. And, of course, in order to do that, it requires a massive attenuation of civil liberties in terms of free speech and free exercise of religion.
Okay, where can people read about this more in detail?
So the article appears in the Federalist. Just came out yesterday. And so if you've been attacked by friends that you have no basis for voting for Trump as you did, and the great threat to democracy and the great fascist is Trump and his supporters, read this article and you'll get several dozen reasons why we did not want to do that.
All right. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it, my friend. God bless you.
Thank you so much for having me again on, and God's blessings to AFA.
Okay, thank you. That's Dr. Robert Gagnon joining us. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Breaking news. What, Chris?
John Thune, the senator from South Dakota, is the winner of the Senate majority election among senators. He defeated Senators John Cornyn of Texas and Rick Scott of Florida in that three-senator fight, I should say.
Did they fight? Did they actually have a fight?
It was a battle of votes. They fought.
There it is.
They fought at the ballot
box. That was
box.
very quick, Chris. But you got to be quick in the news department. Right?
Yes.
Very quick.
So John Thune, he's been in leadership in the Republican Party in the Senate for a long time now.
Yes.
So he's replacing Mitch McConnell, and that I guess that's effective immediately.
Well, it'll be effective, I think, once the new Senate takes their places in January.
Okay, so the other two fellows who were competing for that were Rick Scott from Florida and John Cornyn from Texas. I wonder what will they be 2-3? Do we know yet?
I don't know about that. I do know that they had to go to a second vote. So Rick Scott didn't make it first
It was
round.
between Cornyn and
the final vote.
And Thune.
And it was
All
a
right.
secret ballot. I think that's traditional for this.
Thune did upset some Trump supporters in recent days when he was asked whether or not Trump should weigh in on this, and Thune said that Trump should stay out of the GOP leader race. We played that clip on AFR at the Core last week when I was on with Walker, and we talked about whether or not that was a smart tactic on Thune's part, knowing he's going to have to win over so-called MAGA voters in his leadership bid.
Listen, Trump and Thune and Johnson, the House Speaker, they're going to work together. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader now, he understands that Trump's got all the power.
Do you think so? You're saying he'll be better than McConnell?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good.
I do. Listen, okay, here we go again, Ed. I might play the liberal.
Okay, better you than me.
I'm going to go get some popcorn.
Yeah, you get out of here before our listeners fire back at us. Not everything Mitch McConnell did was bad, okay? When you're herding cats, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
All right? And Mitch McConnell was the epitome of the establishment. I think it was time for him to go. Okay, but there was a reason he was elected by his peers all those years, because he evidently had some skill and ability to coordinate things among people. And for the Republican side, I'm talking about. Now, so I'll just cite you one good thing that Mitch McConnell did do that was very helpful. He did stop, was it Obama?
It was Obama when he nominated Merrick Garland.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay, you remember that? It was an election year, but it was way out from the election, like 8 or 10 months, 8 months or so.
It was the last year of Obama's presidency.
Right.
Correct.
And something happened.
Scalia passed
Ruth
away.
Bader Ginsburg passed away.
No, it was Scalia.
Scalia.
Ginsburg was replaced by Amy Coney Barrett.
That's a good point. Well, we got the names flying, don't we? Okay, so I'm just saying McConnell could have right there gone ahead and held a vote, but instead he decided to hold on to that because he understood how critical the Supreme Court makeup was.
And you did not, and for conservatives, you did not want to replace Scalia with a liberal justice.
Right, and McConnell stopped that.
Yes, he said it is President Obama's last year in office. We're going to let the American people decide who we replace Scalia with
the election.
Right. And that was when President Trump won.
Right. So that took some backbone.
It did.
There.
Yeah. He's the reason we have a Justice Gorsuch today, because Trump enters office and puts Gorsuch in the position.
Right. Right. So I'm just saying, listen, I'm glad to see McConnell out, because I think he was I just don't think he had the fire in the belly for anything conservative anymore, hardly. That's my viewpoint, but it was a hard job, and not everything everybody did. It was a reason he was elected time and time and time again among his peers, conservatives, moderates alike. They elected Mitch McConnell, and now they've elected John Thune. Again, I think John Thune will work with Trump and work with House Speaker Johnson, but Thune knows, as I said, the wind at the back of President Trump, and you're not going to want to upset him and his supporters right now. So I think he'll work together with Trump.
I will say this about Thune. I don't disagree with what you're saying about John Thune working. I don't know that I would trust the Republican establishment to give Trump everything he wants, and that's their job. That's the job of the Senate. They are elected for 6-year terms. And so you're less likely to pressure them into doing what you want them to do. That's part of their job. But I will say this: John Thune was reelected in 2022, so he's in office until 2028. And so if you're going to threaten him with being primaried, that's a long way off.
Plus, Trump would do that.
Yes.
If he got into a really bad, ugly fight with John Thune, which I don't think will happen, he will try to take you out.
Yeah.
Because look what he did with Bob Good.
Yes.
He's 20 years younger than Mitch McConnell. John Thune is.
So I think it would be beneficial for Republicans in the Senate and the House, obviously, but we're talking about the Senate, to work with President Trump. The president has a mandate. I mean,
yes,
he won
does.
the popular
He does.
vote and won the Electoral College by almost 100 votes, almost 100 electoral votes. So he has a mandate, and the American people have spoken, and it would be beneficial for the Senate to work with him, but it would also be beneficial for President Trump to understand that he may not get everything he wants.
I think it'll be fine. That's my opinion.
I'll make this brief because it's about tax policy, which not everybody is excited about.
We love it. We're dug in here.
Okay,
give us some tax policy,
okay.
Chris.
This it's interesting and very timely that the Republican Party is going to control the House, the Senate, and the White House in 2025.
We don't know if they're going to control the House yet.
Well, some news outlets have called it for Republicans.
Okay.
Fox is still holding out. So anyway, assuming Republicans do control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and it's looking like they will, one of the first things they really need to get out there and approved is extending the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's the tax relief plan that Trump signed into office in 2017, not long after they realized they weren't going to be able to
Paul Ryan's tax cuts?
Paul Ryan had a plan in that situation. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Various provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act are set to expire at the end of 2025. So that is one of the first things they're going to have to get through, in addition to the judgeships and all the other stuff that they have to do, like any Congress would have to do.
Yeah, I think those are, I call them the Paul Ryan tax cuts. Really, he was the architect of that, and President Trump, signed off to it. So it's called the Trump tax cuts now, but he worked with I guess, was the House Speaker? He was then House Speaker Paul Ryan. Right. They worked together on getting those through. And a lot of people attribute those to igniting the economy. During the after they passed those, and it had to do with deregulations too, which Trump is a traditional Republican in terms of being a businessman, as I understand it. Basically, he's for lower taxes and lower regulations. So he's a traditional Republican in that respect. All right, next story, Chris.
All right, to go with our discussion just a moment ago with Mr. Gagnon. Last night on his show, Abe Hamilton had pollster George Barna on to talk about some new research from George on how faith-based voters voted in this election. And George went on to share a number of statistics. But here's but a portion of some of what George had to say last night. Clip 14.
Frankly, Mr. Trump would not have won the election without the support of Christians. Votes for Donald Trump, about 78% of it came from Christians. So you take that out of the equation, he doesn't have much to work with.
Now, I play that because I've been here for over 14 years, and there has not been a year in which I've not had to include a soundbite from somebody talking about the number of Christians that don't vote. And so I think this is proof that a lot of Christians did hear the call, and they got involved, and they did vote in this particular election. 78% means a lot of Christians did not vote for Trump. That was their choice. But a number of Christians did realize, hey, this is important, and I do have to get off the couch, stop watching Netflix for a minute, and go vote.
You didn't vote this year, Chris?
Oh, I'm paraphrasing somebody in general. Yeah, a person out there in my imagination.
So George Barna was saying 78% of the votes cast for Donald Trump across the board were from Christians.
I think so. We can play it again. Just double check here.
Identify as Christians. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so not 78% of Christians voted for Trump. 78% of all the people who voted for Trump said they were Christians?
Let me double check to make sure I'm not telling you wrong. Can we play it again?
Because lying's a sin, Chris.
Frankly, Mr. Trump would not have won the election without the support of Christians. Votes for Donald Trump, about 78% of it came from Christians. So you take that out of the equation, he doesn't have much to work with.
So that's probably from exit polling. That Barna.
Yeah, probably so. I trust George Barna.
I do too.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things I love about George Barna is when he does other polls and surveys, he drills down a little bit, because I'm guessing that people come out of voting, exit polls.
Are you a Christian? Yes. Who'd you vote for? Yes.
Yes. And what George Barna does in other polling that's not like exit polling is he'll differentiate between self-identified Christians. Yes, I'm a Christian. Then are you a born-again Christian? And then he has this questionnaire to determine what they actually believe. And so then he has evangelical Christian in a separate category.
He did get into that with Abe. I don't have that soundbite. The newsroom is working on it. In the meantime, after this great program ends, go to afr.net, click on the podcast button, and look for last night's show with Abe talking to George, because he did get into sage cons, Christians, Catholics. He even
Sage cons, didn't they fight the Klingons? In that one movie?
Hey, I'm proud of you.
That was in the Search for Spock.
I saw that.
George Barna did mention.
That was a throwdown right there, a galactic throwdown.
Hey, you're just getting better and better. Sage cons against Klingons.
Live long, prosper, and vote.
Yes.
He's going to release either today or tomorrow
the wrath of God.
This George, y'all. I don't know what to do with y'all sometimes. I actually have a serious point here.
Well, you're going to have to learn what to do with us.
Well, I need to bring a pen in here and write down what I want to say. That way I don't forget.
Go ahead. You got a minute.
George Barna did say he's going to release either today or tomorrow the full study of what he shared on Abe's program. And so that's something that we'll be looking forward to. And once we have that, we'll certainly put that up on our
and we'll maybe drill down a little bit.
And I just want to take up every second we've got.
Go ahead, man. Because I'm done.
Just to say I told you so.
Yeah.
I've been saying for 6 months now, Trump's numbers, voting wise, was going to be similar, if not identical, to 2016 and 2020. It'll be the same in 2024. What the difference will be is that there will be low turnout from the Democrat side.
Lower.
You were right about that.
And you said that.
Yeah, and that's what you were going. That's what I expected to see. I didn't expect Trump to gain more people.
Right.
Everybody knows for the last 12 years who Trump is.
Yeah.
And what you're getting. I don't think you were going to gain any. Even at the state that we were at, I still think. But I think you were going to. Now, were we surprised that there
You're out of time.
20 million or 18 million less votes?
Right.
That's a lot.
In 2020?
For the Democrats.
You did use up all the remaining time. Good work.
To say I told you so.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Edward Graham, and I've got a